From News Compilation 2 comes a really cool Lenny Bruce overview from the CNBC show Instant Recall. A lot of great footage that I've never seen anywhere else. And interviews with his mom and an old girlfriend, Lois Weinstock, and his defense attorney, and George Carlin. So this is another one worth watching. Comes from December 20th, 1990. I guess I should have done this one about a week ago, huh?
There's more to his act than comedy. He shocks his audience with scathing social satire. But his biting words bring on a legal battle that drowns out his message and costs him his life.
What I think killed my son Lenny Bruce was the stress from the trials and not being able to get his point across, that what he was doing was not obscene.
Takes place on April 3rd, 1964. Even before the days of Two Live Crew and Andrew Dice Clay, the issue of censorship was nothing new. In the early 1960s, there was a trailblazing comedian who used shocking words to make his points. He jolted comedy out of the complacency of the 1950s, but he paid the ultimate price for his frankness and courage. His name was Lenny Bruce, and on this day, his shocking words land him in jail.
Here he is, Lenny Bruce.
Lenny was clearly ahead of his time. He was clearly a very, very funny man with a point of view.
There was nothing wrong in four-letter words. There was nothing wrong in anything that he said.
When they said he was a sick comedian, of course, what he was doing was holding up a mirror to a sick society, and, you know, they shot the messenger.
Lenny Bruce. In the early 60s, no other comedian is as controversial. His act pokes fun at politics, sex, even religion, and in explicit language many find offensive. Bruce pushes the very limits of comedy, but he pays a price.
He was a fairly mainstream comedian impersonator at one time.
But from the outset, Bruce's impressions are distinctively different from other comedians. Rather than traditional one-liners, they are elaborate bits with a definite point of view. In 1959, on The Steve Allen Show, he plays a Spanish boy whose beloved pet bull is about to be killed.
No, how can I understand that you kill him? That's what I know. Miguel, if you don't see, I can explain to you. If you say to kill this bull will mean $3,000 your American money. Kill him.
As his career evolves, Bruce aims his satiric tongue at American values and institutions. Here, in an animated cartoon he wrote and narrated, Bruce uses the Lone Ranger to comment on prejudice against homosexuals.
But I've heard a lot about it and read exposés. I want to try it now to see how bad it is. Just once. The punishment is quite correct. They throw them in jail, a lot of men. Very clever.
Hypocrisy in general was his target.
Hypocrisy is something he couldn't tolerate.
Sally Marr, Lenny Bruce's mother, is a comedian herself.
He said, I'm trying to make a point.
Bruce's points become increasingly angry. Here, Bruce makes fun of Lyndon Johnson, a Southern president.
Well, anybody talks that way, buddy. It's like Lyndon Johnson. He didn't talk for the first 6 months. Because he kept rehearsing him saying nigger-o. Nigger-o, nigger. It's like a tape recorder.
Playing clubs across the country, Bruce provokes his audience with his use of four-letter words. In the process, he challenges state laws then in effect regarding the use of such language in public performances.
When people are liberal with something, they're ignorant. Because you can always understand something you don't understand. The Jew has no concept that there's a dirty word graph. In other words, F the Jew doesn't know is worth 90 points and SH 5 points because both rabbis and priests S only one F.
He said, you don't understand why I'm not a comedian. Oh, I said, you're not? He said, do comedians get arrested all the time?
As Bruce became more and more well-known, and his commentary was more and more the subject of discussion, he began to be prosecuted for obscenity, and he had been prosecuted both in Chicago for obscenity and in Philadelphia.
On April 3rd, 1964, following a performance at New York City's Cafe A-Go-Go, Bruce is arrested.
They said the shows were the 27th and the 28th and the 1st of April. They viewed these shows and they then filed this information that it was an indecent show. It took them 3 days, 3 shows to decide that it was indecent, and certainly it seems that it's taken 8 years. And year after year I've played New York City, Carnegie Hall, Town Hall, Basin Street East, and Village Vanguard for them to finally, I guess, understand what I was saying, and that they found it was obscene enough to put me in a jail cell for the last 24 hours, and the thing I wish they would do is tell me what words were as obscene.
Lenny Bruce was extraordinarily frustrated by the fact that the court would not allow him to perform his act.
A peace officer who is trained to recognize clear and present dangers, not make believe, does the act. The grand jury watches him work and they go, that stinks. But I get busted.
Despite considerable celebrity support, on November 4th, Bruce is convicted of obscenity. He is sentenced to 4 months in jail, which he appeals. But his other punishment is equally devastating.
They took his cabaret license away, which meant he couldn't work.
His entire livelihood depended upon him vindicating himself.
Lois Weinstock meets Lenny Bruce a year after the trial. Later, they will make plans to marry.
He had been through hell.
But he was fighting back.
Became obsessed with the law.
Okay, Dick, so district court's denied. Now I take it up to Second Circuit. Friendly, Hayes, and Marshall. Now, when you get to the judges on that level, they are really the law. No.
See, he thought by talking about his trials that he could find some solution in the audiences. He really thought that.
Lenny Bruce's conviction is ultimately overturned. An appellate court rules that his performance is not obscene. But his vindication comes too late.
He was having difficulty just meeting his bills. I mean, he was bouncing checks all over the place, Lenny.
On August 3rd, 1966, Lenny Bruce learns he's about to lose his home. He dies that day of a heroin overdose. Lenny Bruce is only 40.
What I think killed my son Lenny Bruce was the stress from the trials and not being able to get his point across, that what he was doing was not obscene.
The truth is, he pretty much had to die in order for his stuff to become part of our emotional vocabulary.
Lenny Bruce's work inspired a generation of comics, and his legal battles opened doors for today's most outrageous performers. Sally Marr, Lenny Bruce's mother, is still in show business at the age of 84. She now manages other comedians. Lois Weinstock went on to become a comedian in her own right and does shows around the country. George Carlin will soon release his 4th comedy album, Parental Advisory. And Alan G. Schwartz is now a partner in a New York law firm. An upcoming HBO special will pay tribute to Lenny Bruce.
Thank you for watching Cleveland Live Music. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. There's further patronage information in the video descriptions below. Thanks for all the support and making the channel grow.